It is a beautiful spring day for the 43,000 inhabitants of Pripyat in Ukraine. A day that will remain forever engraved in their memory. The crew of Reactor 4 prepares to run a test the next day to see how long the turbines will keep spinning and producing power if the electrical power supply goes offline. As part of the preparation, they disable some critical control system, including the automatic safety mechanism. 3 kilometers from the city, the nuclear plant starts to tremble. The test has failed. The 1,200-ton cover of the reactor suddenly blasts into the air. An ultra-powerful stream of radioactive vapor releases uranium and graphite over 100 meters around the plant. From the gaping hole, a spray of fire, charged with radioactive particles of fusion, shoots 1,000 meters into the sky. The most serious nuclear accident in history has just taken place. The first fireman on the scene battled the fire within the Ilyich-Lenin nuclear power plant, where several thousand people go to work each day. 2 men died that night. 20 more will follow in the next few months. They are the first victims of Chernobyl. For the next 7 months, 50,000 men wave hand to hand to combat with an invisible enemy.
By early morning, the clouds are already being contaminated by the radioactive column rising 1,000 meters onto the sky. At the core of the blown-out reactor and buried under 14 meters of rubble, the graphite surrounding the nuclear fuel burns and melts the uranium. The radioactive fallout is going to be 100 times greater than the combined power of the 2 atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At the Kremlin, 8 hours after the explosion, Gorbachev only has scanty information on the situation. The first information consisted of accident and fire.
На Чернобыльской атомной электростанции произошла авария. Поврежден один из атомных реакторов. Принимаются меры по ликвидации последствий аварии. Пострадавшим оказывается помощь. Создана правительственная комиссия.
The consequences of such false information were particularly dramatic. For Pripyat, 43,000 inhabitants, life goes on as usual. They know nothing about the disaster 3 kilometers away.
In those days, radioactivity was measured in units called roentgens. Normal atmospheric level is about 12 millionth of a roentgen. In Pripyat, by early afternoon, readings are already over 200,000 of a roentgen. In other words, 50,000 times higher than usual. By the evening, the level has shot up to 600,000 times above normal. It's thought that a human being can absorb up to 2 roentgens per year without being affected, but the body is lethally contaminated if it receives over 400 roentgens. During that first day, the inhabitants absorb over 50 times what is considered to be a harmless dose. At the Nuclear Institute, the figures provoke a shock. Such a level of radioactivity has never been seen before. 20 hours after the explosion, the level of radioactivity continues to climb. By now, windows and doors should be sealed and iodine tablets swallowed to counteract the effect of radioactivity. Yet, no such orders have been given.
Two days after the explosion, a convoy of 1,100 buses arrived to Pripyat. To avoid panic, the authorities concealed the seriousness of the situation. Inhabitants are given 2 hours to gather their belongings and assemble in front of their buildings. In 3.5 hours, 43,000 people are evacuated tearfully but peacefully. People have been exposed to doses of radiation that will alter the composition of their blood and engender fatal cancer. 48 hours after the disaster, the only people left in the ghost town are military personnel and members of the scientific delegation headquartered at the Pripyat Hotel. Meanwhile, clouds filled with radiating particles are being blown north by the wind. Between the 26th and the 27th of April, they drift over 1,000 kilometers above Russia, then over Belarus and the Baltics. On the 28th, they hit Sweden, where the rise of radioactivity is detected near one of their nuclear power plants. Soon after, TV news alerts the population. 60 hours after the disaster, still no official word has been reported outside of the Soviet Union. 3 days after the accident, while Gorbachev is still trying to gather data, American and European spy satellites turn to the Soviet Union and discover the ruins of the Ukrainian plant. The smoke wafting from the gaping hole shows up clearly.
In the morning of that Monday, the 28th, the Russians released the information to the world. At the bottom of the destroyed reactor, 1,200 tons of white-hot magma continues to burn at over 3,000 degrees, sending liters of radioactive dust into the atmosphere. The whole of Europe is at mercy of the winds. Top pilots have been rushed back from the Afghan front to fly helicopters carrying soldiers who tossed 80 kilos sandbags into the blaze with their bare hands. They hope to smother the fire by filling the reactor with tons of sand and boric acid, which neutralizes radiation.